my name is Christine Cibrian and we're going to be doing a presentation focusing on comparative education. We will be looking at the teacher requirements of China, Canada, and the United States. So a brief overview, let's start with China. China is the highest populated country in the world. The education system teaches in both Mandarin and English, and more commonly is in English, and they actually have a very high need for English instructors. The compulsory education for children in China is 6 years of primary and 3 years of secondary education. The education system is funded by the government, and the goal of China for their education system is to modernize China through education. And they really have a focus on science and culture. They really want to make sure that their students have those values instilled in them while they're going through the education program. Now looking over at Canada, the population is much smaller, being not at 37 million people. Canada also teaches education in 2 different languages, but it's in English and French. And a lot of students actually have knowledge of both languages, and parents tend to instill the language development at an early age. Canada is also considered one of the most educated countries in the world, according to Canada Visa. And their compulsory education is primary grades K through 8, as well as secondary 9 to 12. So it is a 12-year education system. And it is different than China, being that it is funded by the provinces and not by the government. And the provinces are the ones that are regulating the education system and what's being taught and funds and things of that nature. The goals of the Canadian education system are moral and civic development, individual development, vocational preparation, and cultivating the mind of all students that are attending school. So the purpose of the research. The purpose of this comparative education is to provide an understanding of the requirements to become a qualified teacher in China, Canada, and the United States. So let's look at some key information, and let's start with China. China educators have a very low salary, but they do have the opportunity to participate in extracurricular tutoring after hours. The urban areas are very competitive for teachers to get jobs, and the rural is actually in very high need of teachers. They're, according to NCEE 2020, they're trying to equal the education and increase the salary and incentives for that of teachers in the rural area. They're really trying to equal the playing ground and provide equal education to all students in China. If teachers are interested in only teaching preschool, they only need a high school diploma. Other than that, they need a 4-year bachelor. They will go through a 4-year bachelor program according to NCEE. Also, they have to take a test to become certified in Mandarin, and there's 4 additional tests which include psychology and even classroom management aspects. They have to have 120 hours of experience before they are allowed to be teaching on their own, and then once they complete all the requirements, they have to participate in another 3 years and have somebody that assists them in the program and kind of looks over them, kind of equivalent to an induction program here in California. Now in Canada, the teachers have a much higher salary, and they really focus on providing teachers with a cultural diverse program so that they're able to serve their students, because it is diverse, and they want to instill those values of multiculturalism into their students. So teachers have to take 12 years of education, and then they have to do 4 years of the post-secondary education, which is equivalent to a bachelor's degree. Canada also really focuses on character traits and wants to make sure that they are hiring teachers that are very interested in teaching. They have to have strong vocab in English or French, and they have to have an interest in actually serving students. They have to show a very big passion, especially since the Teachers of Canada provide such a big foundational background to their students. So, as for the juxtaposition, we have the spending in China. So the China system spends a low amount of funds on their education system and provides teachers with a bare minimum of materials. The materials are outdated, their salaries are low, so they're really having to focus on teaching students what they know with outdated materials. Now, in Canada and the United States, although Canada has province funding and the United States is government funding, they do spend a lot more money on their education system and provide students with updated materials. Classrooms are a little more modernized and things of that nature. Another thing that we looked at was the education. China has a 4 years secondary education, and they also have to take that language test along with 4 additional tests that they have to pass, and they have to have 120 hours in the classroom, and then they have to have 3 years after obtaining a job of a person supervising their teaching. Now in Canada, you need a bachelor's degree that primarily focuses on teaching, and then you have to do an induction program after completion, and they have a big focus on diversity. In the United States, you have to have a bachelor's degree, but it does not matter what the bachelor's degree is in before going through a credential program. During the credential program, you have to take different standardized tests, and you have to do student teaching. And then after you have a job, you have to go through a 2-year induction program. Another thing that was part of the juxtaposition was the subject matter. China is single subject even in primary. So the teachers of China, if you're a math teacher, you are a math teacher. You are not teaching multiple subjects. But in Canada and the United States, in the primary grades, you are a multi-subject teacher. But in the secondary, you are focusing on one subject. And then we have the compulsory education. For China, it's 9 years. For Canada and the United States, it's 12 years, with kindergarten being optional. So, in conclusion, all 3 countries really want teachers with strong morals and values. They want to hire teachers with longevity that are going to be able to serve students for many years, that want to serve students for many years as well. They don't want to just hire anybody that's not really interested in serving students and educating students. Another focus was that more than one language was offered in a lot of these countries. Canada being the Mandarin and English, and or China being Mandarin and English, and Canada being French and English. In the United States, it's taught in English, but you are able to take many different languages as an elective course. Canada and the United States really focus on diversity, with a lot of immigrants coming into both countries. It's important that diversity is accepted, and we're teaching our students an acceptance for multiculturalism, because we're trying to develop strong leaders that are globalized. And all have support systems in place for the educators after completing their programs, and provide support for new coming teachers, which I think is very important, because when you are entering a classroom on your own for the first year, it is very stressful and you really don't know what to expect. So I think having that support person working over you to help you and assist you is very beneficial to all the countries. And here is a list of references. Thank you very much.